From ancient China to medieval Europe, from fantasy novels to blockbuster movies, there's one mythical creature that towers above them all, the dragon. It's this incredible universal symbol, and today we're going to figure out why.
But that just raises a huge question, right? How on earth did all these cultures, many of which never even met, all dream up a creature that's so similar? I mean, what are the chances of that?
Well, here's the thing. Dragons were never just about being big, scary monsters. They've always been something more. They're like a mirror, a powerful, symbolic mirror that reflects the deepest fears, the biggest hopes, and the core values of any culture that imagines them.
To really get it, we have to go way, way back to the beginning. And you might be surprised to find out that this whole myth probably didn't start with magic or fantasy, but with something very real: bones.
That's right, Bones. A lot of experts think the whole idea of dragons kicked off when ancient people stumbled upon dinosaur fossils. Just imagine it. You've got no context for paleontology, and you dig up these massive, terrifying bones. What would you think you found? It's a pretty logical leap to imagine a giant, powerful creature, right? Now you mix that with seeing real-life powerful reptiles like crocodiles or giant snakes, and boom, you've got the perfect recipe for a legend. These discoveries basically became a blank canvas for people to paint all their anxieties and ambitions onto.
Okay, so this is where the story gets really interesting. Because once the idea of the dragon was born, it took two completely different paths. It evolved in dramatically different ways in the East versus the West, creating these two foundational and frankly opposite traditions.
So in the East, dragons are almost always seen as a good thing. They're these wise, benevolent protectors, a symbol of natural harmony. They're tied to things you absolutely need to survive, like water, rain, and fertility, which makes total sense in societies built on agriculture. But then you look to the West, and the script is completely flipped. Dragons are the ultimate villains. They represent chaos, danger, evil, that untamed wilderness that has to be conquered by a hero.
And get this, their appearances perfectly match their roles. The Eastern dragon is usually long, snake-like, wingless. It moves with this fluid grace, like the rivers and rain it controls. The Western dragon, though, it is built for combat. It's got these huge bat-like wings, razor-sharp claws, and of course, it breathes fire.
And that massive difference extends to their role in society, too. In a place like China, the dragon was a sacred symbol of the emperor's power and a sign of good fortune. Seeing a dragon was an incredible omen. But in medieval Europe, a dragon was the ultimate final boss. It was the monster a knight had to slay to prove his courage. And its famous love for hoarding treasure, well, that also made it a powerful symbol for the dangers of greed, an obstacle you had to overcome to prove you were virtuous.
This chart just lays that divide out perfectly. You've got the Long in China, so respected it literally became a symbol for the emperor himself, and Japan's Ryu, a protector of life-giving water. Then, just hop over to Europe and you get Fafnir from Norse mythology, a creature so consumed by greed he becomes the poster child for it, and St. George's dragon, which is basically the physical embodiment of sin and chaos that has to be wiped out.
So, what happens when these two powerful, totally opposing traditions smash into each other in our modern, hyper-connected world? Well, you get something new. You get the rise of a whole new kind of dragon.
We can call this the modern dragon. It's this incredible transcultural hybrid. Storytellers today, in books, movies, video games, they've started mixing and matching these traits. They're creating dragons that aren't just one or the other. They might have the raw, destructive power of a Western dragon, but also the ancient, deep wisdom of an Eastern one.
And this evolution really took off for a few key reasons. First, it just allows for way deeper, more interesting characters. You can move far beyond that simple good guy knight versus bad guy dragon story. This gives writers so much more to work with. A dragon can be a villain, a protector, an ally, or maybe just a mysterious force of nature, sometimes all in the same story. And of course, this kind of complexity just better reflects our modern global imagination, appealing to audiences who kind of grew up with both of these traditions. Which brings us to the final, really crucial point. After thousands and thousands of years, why are we still so completely obsessed with dragons? What is it about them that still hits us so hard?
I think their lasting power comes down to just how versatile they are. On one level, they represent the absolute peak of human imagination, fantasy itself. They are the ultimate challenge, the biggest adventure. But they're also shorthand for these huge, complex ideas like raw power, ancient wisdom, greed, chaos, and grace. When we look at a dragon, we're seeing a direct line to our most ancient fears and our deepest hopes.
And that brings us right back to our central idea. This quote really says it all. Dragons are mirrors reflecting our fears, dreams, and values across time and cultures. They've never just been stories about monsters. They've always been stories about us.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. If dragons really are a mirror, reflecting the people who imagine them, what do our modern dragons, the ones that are complex, powerful, and often morally gray, what did they say about us right now?